So for this purpose, I'm going to discuss about the DRF principle. So there's three basic principles, and one of them is detoxification. So for some people, they do not believe in detoxification. They think that detoxification is just some hocus pocus. But the thing is, you have to understand, every cell in your body wants to remove toxin. So when you have an enzymatic reaction and the end product of those reactions in the body is carbon dioxide, and you have to remove them. So one of the major detoxification organ in the body is, of course, with the carbon dioxide, you have to expel it, is your respiratory system. Another major detoxifying organ in your body is, of course, the liver. Okay, so we all know that. So if you drink some poison, or if there's a drug that you take in, your body would naturally remove that through detoxification process in the liver. Also the skin, okay, the skin. So if it's too hot, too cold, the pores in your skin, they would contract. They would also open up to release all the toxins. So detoxification is an important process in the body. And without detoxification, we will die. So detoxification is one of the principles of the Dr. Farrah protocol. Another is micro and macronutrient supplementation. Now, this is very important. The first scientist who recognized that there's a micronutrient deficiency is associated with a certain illness. It's the scientist Linus Pauling. So he's very famous with the introduction of vitamin C. He was the proponent of the mega dosing of vitamin C. Now, he did a lot of experimentation. He did a lot of observation. And he realized that with a certain type of problem, it is usually associated with micronutrient deficiency. For example, chromium. Okay, a deficiency in chromium is usually associated with diabetes, hypertension, and even atherosclerosis. And this is in a lot of studies. It was demonstrated in a lot of studies. Another deficiency, magnesium. So if you're deficient in magnesium, you would always, not always, but some people, they would have problems in sleeping. So they would have insomnia. Most of them, they would have depression as well, hypertension, diabetes. So these are just some of the micronutrient deficiency that can be linked to a certain type of problem. Another macronutrient is your proteins. So if you are deficient in proteins, you would normally have edema. So your belly is gonna be big, your entire body was gonna be big. You would have anasarca. That's what they call it in medical terms. And it's usually associated with protein deficiency. Okay, so that's one of the principle of the Dr. Farrah protocol. These are very important because as you see people, based on how I see them, this is how I treat them when I was in my country. Another is lifestyle changes. So this is very important because majority of cancer or chronic illnesses is associated with lifestyle, with faulty lifestyle. Okay, 92 to 96% of illnesses has some lifestyle problems. Okay, and the minority of that is associated with genes. And this is how I give my client, my patient, when I was in my country, an idea of how important the lifestyle is. You have a seed, and then you put it in a fertile soil. So what's gonna happen with the seed? Normally, the seed would grow to become a plant. Now, if you put that seed in a concrete, what's gonna happen? It will not grow. So the same with your body, okay? If you make your body hospitable to a lot of illnesses by eating, foods that are not good, processed food, highly inflammatory, sugary, processed foods, of course, these chronic illnesses will will be in your body. So you would suffer from this type of illnesses. So it's very important to change the lifestyle. Okay, that has to be the number one thing that you should be doing. Food is a major determinant of health. So whatever food that you take in, it's gonna determine if you're gonna live a long, long time or if you're gonna die prematurely because of some diseases like hypertension, diabetes, and atherosclerosis, stroke. So you have to be good. You have to be, when it comes to your food, you have to be very selective. Okay? And one of the major causes of illnesses right now is sugar. And back then, I was talking to Dave about this. The history of sugar is that back then, during the era of Queen Anne, if you're familiar with that, she was the Queen of Scotland. And back then, the sugar is just available to the royalty. So Queen Anne had problems with gout. And he also has miscarriages. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was 20 miscarriages. He had 20 miscarriages. And she only had one child that survived for just a couple of years and didn't even survive until adulthood. And it's because the sugar was only available to the royalty, to the rich people. Now, as time goes by, I think it was approaching 1900s, it became available to the poor people. So as it became available to the poor people, everyone was drinking a lot of, or consuming a lot of sugary foods. And guess what happens? Of course, when you're consuming sugary foods, all the chronic illnesses skyrocketed. Diabetes, hyperuricemia, gouty arthritis, even cancer, because of the sugar intake of the people. So if there's one thing that you have to understand and that you will remember in this talk is sugar is bad. And the adult sugar here in the US, their consumption right now is around 141 pounds per year. So it's around as big as Dave. 141 pounds, Dave. Okay.
I wish.
So that's how heavy the consumption of sugar here in the US. That's why everyone here, most of the people here, is not so sexy. Okay. So I'm not going to say fat, but not so sexy anymore. Okay. So the next is processed food. So if you talk about processed food, these are the foods, okay, that has undergone some form of refinement. Example is white bread, okay? So those are the examples, pasta. So those are processed food. Now, if they would undergo some form of refinement or processing, some of the minerals have been removed from this food. And this is bad for us if we consume it. Because most of the minerals, again, like what I told you, the deficiency of minerals is most probably associated with a certain type of problem. So example of that is chromium. So the chromium, usually it's stripped off of the food and it's associated with hypertension, atherosclerosis, and diabetes. Okay? Another is simple carbohydrates. So the consumption of simple carbohydrates like potatoes, anything that's white, would increase the blood sugar, your blood sugar, as fast as consuming a cola. Now, this is about the glycemic index, okay? The glycemic index, it's the capacity of the food to increase the blood sugar. Okay, so for example, glucose. So if you drink glucose, your blood sugar will go up until 100. It has a glycemic index of 100. So it's gonna make any food that has a high glycemic index would automatically increase your blood sugar. So if you have increased blood sugar, then it's gonna make the blood highly inflammatory immediately. So those are the the food that we have to be careful. Next is alcohol. Okay, nako. So, yes, Dave loves alcohol. Alcohol generally is a toxin. It's a poison. Why? Because it doesn't, it goes directly to the liver. Okay? And when it goes to the liver, it enters the liver through passive diffusion. So it would just go directly. And the alcohol is converted to acetaldehyde. So what is an acetaldehyde? Diba? It sounds like a formaldehyde. Yeah, because they are relatives. A formaldehyde is also an acetaldehyde. So formaldehyde, we don't like formaldehyde, right? So imagine this alcohol is being converted to an acetaldehyde. So this is bad for us. This is bad for the body. And there are alcohol is associated also with cancers of the liver and the pancreas. Another is smoking. Of course, we know smoking is bad for us. We know it already from a long time ago. Smoking can cause lung problems, respiratory problems, cancer in the mouth, bladder cancer, cervical cancer, a lot of cancer. So smoking if you're smoking, stop smoking right now. Exercises. So are you exercising? Okay. Now with the exercise, okay, usually in a lot of research, it says that it has to be moderate exercise. So around 1 hour, and then your heartbeat should not be too fast. Okay, it has to be around 90 beats per minute. Okay, not too fast because if it's a severe form of exercise, it's highly inflammatory as well. Okay. Now, with the exercise, it improves the insulin sensitivity in the muscles, and it also enhances the burning, the furnace of your cells. We call it your TCA cycle for those who studied biochemistry, and it's also a good source of stress relief. So because it also increases your endorphins in the body. So exercise is good. So if you're not exercising right now, you should exercise. You should start a regimen. Now, another problem that we have right now, this is very important. Some of the personal hygiene, personal products, personal care, healthcare, or personal care products that we are using, they're very bad for us, most of them. So when I was in my country and I was seeing a lot of patients, this is what I have always told my clients and my patient is to be wary about the things that they are putting in their body. Shampoo, the makeup, toothpaste, because some of the products right now, they have formaldehyde, or they have formaldehyde releasing substances. They also have phthalates and BPA. So these substances, they're very bad for us, okay? And I will explain to you later about endocrine disruptors. Endocrine disruptors and GMO. I'll explain everything to you why this is so important. Now, when it comes to your food, okay, the method that you use for cooking is also very important. As a general rule, when it comes to meat, they have to be cooked properly. Okay, if you're gonna eat your steak, it's not rare. Dave, do not eat a rare steak. Okay, why? Because some of the meat that we are taking in, they can be contaminated with bacteria, with parasites. You know, these parasites, they're very hazardous to our body. And some of them, it can cause a lot of problems in the brain. So we should always cook our meat properly. How about the fruits and vegetables, especially the vegetables, especially us Filipinos, we always cook our vegetables. Pinakbet, diba? Pinakbet, what else? Um, there's so many vegetables that we cook. But as a general rule, vegetables should not be cooked or should be cooked lightly. Okay? What is the reason? Fruits and vegetables, okay, you have the minerals, and these minerals and vitamins, they're very labile. When you talk about labile, it means that they are, when you cook them, you release the vitamins and the minerals, so you lose them. Okay, that's why we generally do not cook fruits and vegetables. Okay, especially fruits. No one cooks fruits except for Filipinos. The Filipinos cook their fruits. Okay, Lani knows that. Jackfruit.
I don't.
I think the only people in the world that cooks their fruits are Filipinos. Bananas, we cook our fruits, right? So that's why we are a very unique people, because we are eccentric when it comes to our food. Okay, so the DRF protocol. Okay. So the DRF protocol is composed of three. So you have the herbal remedies, the mineral, and the macronutrient. So herbal remedies, mineral, and macronutrient. Herbal remedies are very important because there are certain plants that have primary and secondary compounds that affects our body. What are these primary and secondary compounds? The primary compounds are the ones that gives us nutrition. So the plant has these primary compounds for nutrition purposes, okay, to sustain their growth. The secondary compounds that they produce is for them to protect themselves. And when we eat them, it also protects us in return. So what are these? These are phenols, terpenoids, alkaloids, glycosides. So these are the things that the plant has that when we consume them, it can affect our body. So garlic is one of the most important herbal remedies. It has been used a long, long time ago. And for me, garlic is one of the best things that a cancer patient or a simple person can consume. They are rich in organosulfur compounds, and which has been proven to be an antioxidant, antibacterial, antimicrobial. Very good, an excellent herb. Okay? Next is for the minerals. Okay? So there are certain diseases that, deficiencies that are associated with a certain disease. Like what I told you with diabetes, okay? Diabetes, usually we give them chromium, vanadium, lipoic acid, vitamin C, magnesium. These are all very good for diabetic people. Now, the macronutrient, or what we call the food diary, this is very important. Okay? So you have to write daily what you are eating. So if you're eating in the morning, afternoon, and then nighttime, you have to write. Okay? And then you have to review it. Am I really following the protocol? What is the protocol? No rice, no bread, no processed food, no sweet fruits. Okay? So those are the major things that I tell my client. You are not allowed to eat these four things, okay? Because they would increase the sugar in your blood. And if the sugar in your blood increases, it already makes your body highly inflammatory. Okay, so there was one question that was asked, okay, and it was about benign prostatic hypertrophy. So whoever you are, sir, this is the answer to your question. Benign prostatic hypertrophy. So these are usually the prostate, okay, which is located at this. You have your urinary bladder. Underneath that, that's a walnut gland, and it's your prostate. Now, in males, okay, women, you don't have prostate, only males. So for males, okay, it's a walnut size. Now, if you are 50 years old, usually your prostate would increase in size, okay? And this is a condition that is known as benign prostatic hypertrophy. So benign, it means it's not malignant, okay? Prostate hypertrophy. So it means there's an increase in the size, okay? Some, they would call it also benign prostatic hyperplasia. But for this term, we were gonna use benign prostatic hypertrophy. Symptoms associated, constipation, dysuria, oliguria, and nocturia. So ihi ng ihi, you're gonna have urination usually at night. You would also have difficulty of pooping, and sometimes it's painful to pee. And when you pee, it's in small amounts. Okay, so those are the symptoms of benign prostatic hypertrophy. Now, I have seen most of the studies right now, not all, most of the studies right now. And guess what I found out? The best herb for benign prostatic hypertrophy is aligatong, okay, for Filipinos. In English, it's stinging nettle. Okay, this was a study that was done, if I'm not mistaken, this was in Iran. And they give it to people who have benign prostatic hypertrophy. And they followed up all these males who have problems with their prostate. And there was a significant change in their symptoms. So aligatong is one of the best herb that you can take. Another is serpentina, okay? Or what we call Andrographis paniculata. That's the scientific name. So this plant serpentina, in a lot of studies, it has been proven to decrease cancer cells, prostate cancer. So if you have prostate cancer, this is the plant that you should be consuming. How are you gonna consume it? Of course, the best thing for you to do is to boil it and then drink it 3 times a day. So if you have a benign prostatic hypertrophy, or if you have prostate cancer, these are some of the herbs that you can use. Okay? Now, what are the important minerals that are associated with benign prostatic hypertrophy? Zinc. Why zinc? Okay, zinc is important in the immune function of the body. So, in fact, if your body is deficient in zinc, your immune function would be very low. Your lymphoid organs would shrink. That's why zinc is important. Where can you find zinc? You can find it in clams, oysters. Those are one of the best sources of zinc. Nuts. Yan. So these are the things that you can take for benign prostatic hypertrophy. Okay. Next is fibroids. This is another question. So they were asking me is, what is a treatment for fibroids? What are fibroids? Okay. Fibroids are also known as myoma. Yes, for simple people who cannot understand what fibroids is. It's myoma. And myoma, it's benign, so meaning non-malignant. Okay, tumors. Non-cancerous growth in the uterus, usually in the muscular layer. That's why you have intramural, submucosal, and subserosal. Now, the problem with these tumors, these benign tumors, is that you can have infertility. That's one of the thing that can happen. You can have bleeding, profuse bleeding. That's why when you go to a doctor and if it's huge and then you're bleeding a lot, what will your doctor say? Oh, let's remove it. Okay? And those are one of the indications why some doctors would advise you to remove it if you're bleeding too much, you're losing a lot of blood. So they would advise you to have it removed, okay? Now, the fibroids, like what I told you, there's two important concepts on the formation of the fibroids. One of them is the endocrine disruptors and the GMO. Now, this is important. This is important because it's everywhere, okay? And it's projected that in the next few years, because of the rampant endocrine disruptors and GMO, the infertility right now will skyrocket. Okay, and also a lot of obesity, reproductive problems, okay, and endocrine problems because they are associated with the endocrine disruptors and your GMO. So what are your endocrine disruptors? These are substances in the environment, food sources, personal care products that you are using that disrupts, okay, disrupts your hormones in the body, your neurotransmitters as well. So examples of this is the plastics. That's why they banned BPA. So if you're familiar with BPA, they banned it. Okay, it's because they are an endocrine disruptor. Okay, now another is your GMO, genetically modified organism. What is it? These are organisms. Okay, it can be a bacteria, it can be a plant, it can be an animal that has been genetically altered to serve a certain purpose, GMO. Now, the problem with GMO, we have already that in field, there's a GMO rice, right? If you're familiar with that. Now, the problem with GMO is we do not have the enzymes to process the GMO. So we would usually have problems processing them. So we'd have allergic reactions. We would also have cancer, you know. So in the end, because there are studies that links GMO to cancer. Okay, so remember those two things. And if you're sick right now and you're here because you want to take control of your health, those are the two things that you should remember. Okay. Now, there's another question. We're going to go to question number 4. Okay. So this is about cancer, how to treat cancer. Okay. So what is cancer? Okay. I think most of us know what cancer is. But as a general term, cancer is a stepwise, progressive degeneration of normal cells due to mutation. So there should be a mutation first. Okay? And this mutation happens because of many factors. This can be because of radiation. This can be because of your faulty lifestyle. This can be because of physical trauma. These are the things that can cause mutation to the DNA. So this is more genetic, okay? Now, if it's just simple disruptions of the DNA, simple breaks in the DNA, your body will just process it. In fact, they said that a person will develop cancer 6 times in their life. 6 times. So an adult person will have 6 times cancer in their life, and their body will just process it. In fact, every day we make cancer cells. Every day the DNA is exposed to carcinogens. What are carcinogens? These are substances that can cause cancer. You know how many times you are exposed to a carcinogen? 1,000 to 10,000 times. That's why a very strong immune system is very important because a strong immune system will just fix that. That's it. And we don't have any more problems. Now, the moment the immune system goes down, then problems will arise. That's why it's very important to eat properly, to exercise, to be stress-free. If you have any problems, you shouldn't be minding all of your problems. To have a healthy relationship. Because, you know, also having a good marriage, it's actually an insurance of not having too much cancer in your life. So that's why be nice to your husbands and to your wives, okay? Do not fight with them, okay? You should always love one another, okay? So I think that's it. That's the 4 questions that I was asked.
Okay, Dr. Farrah, I'm going to take back